Do not confuse this with treatment or mental health advice or direction. Nothing on this podcast is made to supplement or supersede the relationship and direction of your mental health caretakers. Although David Kozlowski is a licensed marriage and family therapist, he is not functioning as a certified mental health professional in this environment, but same applies to any professionals who may appear on the Light the Fight podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Light the Fight. Is David.
And I'm Heidi.
Heidi.
I hate that, you know.
I'm
David and I'm Heidi.
What's the date today?
I don't know. It's definitely towards the end of July. July 30th.
It's July 30th all day. And
there's 31 days in July, so we aren't quite to the end of the week.
We're not quite to the end of the week. But the reason why I asked you the date is you guys...
He wants to make sure that I'm in town for this weekend.
No.
He's like, just double check.
Yeah, we have a Light the Fight workshop, and I'm just clarifying that Heidi's going to attend the workshop because I'm going to be lonely.
I'm only just half of it. I'd say 49%.
Well, you're 49% of the content and 69% of the challenge, right?
Well, and actually, I'm looking forward to it because I always learn something new. So I'm excited to find out what I'm going to learn about this time.
Well, that's what I meant as far as like you're a big part of the challenge, because every time we bring up every single topic, they're like, okay, this is something I struggle with. I'm like, Heidi, you said that every single time we talked about something. Not every time.
Guys, it's just hard for me.
Well,
it's hard for me.
That's why we're here. For those people who were brave enough to go back to the very first couple podcasts that we did in my office with horrible sound. Not our producer's fault. Just my office was not made for producing anything or recording anything.
And the fact that I couldn't speak.
You know, you went to get some professional help recently. No, but back then we did identify that, you know, Heidi, with all of her life experiences, with all the parents that she talks to pretty much on the daily, you're the best person to go out into the field and gather up troubles and struggles and challenges, because you're the 1 degree of separation in your community from all the struggles that parents go through, because parents come to you and they tell you what's going on. They trust you.
Also, I don't have the license that prevents me from talking about the things that I talk about.
That's true. You can just talk about it. For me, people know that they have to make an appointment and pay me. Like, that's the agreement.
That's right.
Otherwise, you know, I get those. I got one last night, actually. Got a parent just randomly jump out from the dark and like, hey, let me ask you three quick questions.
Oh, that was
3 quick questions doesn't exist when it comes to your teenager that you're scared about.
That's why we can't tell people where you work out. Otherwise, they'd like be on the treadmill next to you.
I did have one lady. I was like working out and she kept on like looking over, and she walked up to me and she held up her phone, and it was our podcast, me and you, and she's like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Maybe." And no, she was sweet. She said she was a fan of the podcast. It was kind of cool. But yeah, so if anyone wants to know, I work out in Reno, Nevada at the Vasa Fitness there. I just commute every day. But without any more of our jibber jabbish, as you can tell, I'm buying some time, trying to let the caffeine kick in a little bit, because it was a hot day today, 100 degrees.
You guys, I had the best day.
Yeah,
today.
You had a great day.
I had the best day.
Garden.
I mean, I hiked this morning. I set a timer and worked in my yard, because I could really spend a long time in the yard. And so I had to kind of set a timer and limit myself. But I loved it. I don't know if you happen to follow me on social media, but we have a foreign exchange student staying with us right now. And that's been just a really interesting experience. And I think we're all kind of still like trying to figure that out, the communication. And she's a 14-year-old girl from Japan. And, you know, I thought, oh, this is going to be great. Colton will help. I mean, he's around a little bit. And
there's a domo gato every now and then, and I'm out.
He really just like talks to them in English, you know, he's like trying to force them to speak English. Anyway, it's been a good experience. Also, it's caused me to have to like construct my life a little bit with a little bit more structure.
So you can't stab
because there's
balls
people
while the girls are around.
Oh, and
maybe a traumatizing American experience for
yeah,
them.
Yeah. I've tried to remain calm. Both the girls who are with myself and my sister are only children, and I think it's been pretty eye opening for them. Plus, we have dogs. Again, very eye opening. Plus, Walmart, super eye opening. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of been.
Plus,
fun.
they've probably never seen so many blonde-haired, blue-eyed people in their whole entire life.
Yeah, they're kind of amazed by the whole thing. So it's fun.
See, send them over to my house. I eat sushi every day.
Yeah.
They'd feel right at home.
They would love that. Instead, I'm giving them like, here's a peanut butter sandwich. Choke this down.
Actually, maybe they want American stuff. Maybe they want something different.
Yeah.
Well,
they're getting that.
The reason why I asked you about the date is got bad news for all of our listeners out there, especially those people that live in this part of the country. Not much time is left in summer.
It's true.
And we're actually 3 weeks out from starting the new school year.
Unless your name's Connor Swap.
Unless your name's Connor Swap, or my daughter as well.
She also started.
She started last week. The end of last week. So, no, actually, she was there all last week. But yeah, the all year round school. But with it being the end of July and coming around, a lot of people have already done their family vacations, or they got maybe one more plan. There's just not a lot of time left. And so, in about a week or so, you're going to start doing this thing called worrying. And
if you're not, your kids are.
Yeah, but worrying about something different. Instead of worrying about how you're going to get them up by noon every day, or worrying about where they're at because they're running the neighborhoods because it's fun summertime. Now you're going to be worrying about school stuff,
homework,
and also
grades.
Things that maybe didn't go the way that your kid wanted to last year. You'll be worried about, all the things that, you want to change to make sure that this year's better than last year. No one wants to repeat a bad year. And even if you had a good year last year, you want it to be even better this year. So we thought we'd have a little discussion today about just, some of the things that we hear from parents that are on the worrying list or things to worry about within the next couple weeks. Before we get started with that, I do want to give a friendly reminder that we are sponsored by teencounseling.com. And if you're new to the podcast, you haven't heard about them, teencounseling.com is a great invention for 2019. In our workshop, we talk about, updating your app. Whatever your parenting style was back in 2012, 2013, you got to update that thing.
Quick.
Yeah, Snapchat didn't even exist back then.
Yeah.
Instagram, nobody knew what Instagram was. So teencounseling.com, they take the opportunity of matching you with a therapist that meets your needs for your teenager and yourself. And the reason why this is a big deal, I can attest to this being a teen therapist, there's just not a lot of therapists that went into school and went into the business that were focusing specifically on teenagers. And in all honesty, I could see why. It's not the easiest population to work with. They're usually not wanting to come to counseling. And so because of that, there wasn't a lot of teen therapists that I even went to school with. And that's not usually, the common thing that people go to therapy for. So what teencounseling.com is, it can match you up with therapy over using the internet with your phone. And most counseling is done with the phone. So here's how it works. You go to teencounseling.com, use /LTF. You'll get a 10% discount for being a listener here of our podcast, and you'll be able to get matched up with a therapist that's going to be the right situation for you, and also
specialty.
Exactly. They're going to find what your challenges are, what you're looking for. But the good thing about it is you get access to their database of therapists all around the country, not just to your area. And for those people who live in rural areas, or if you just live in an area where you don't have a therapist, or I'm like the only guy in your area, and if I'm not accepting new clients,
or if you work and
or if you
can't get your kid, just trying to juggle doctor's appointments and therapy appointments is hard. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And so this gives you the opportunity to get counseling, but here's what it gives. It gives your children, your teenagers, the opportunity to be able to be a part of the process because they're doing it through their phone. This is going to be through voice calls, texting, and I just want you to think of FaceTime. It's basically like a FaceTime that they do through their app. And so go to Teen Counseling /LTF to get your 10% discount. Go through it, check out their website. I talked to them for a very long time before we agreed to have them as a sponsor. I've been looking for so long to help provide parents with new alternatives, but also convenience and the ability to follow through with weekly appointments through your phone is going to make it something that you can keep consistent with. Because just like anything, going to the gym, just like, going to school, the more you do it, the more you're going to get out of it. So teen counseling /LTF, get your 10% discount and give us some feedback. Let us know your experience. So far, we've had lots of people visit the site. We have a number of people sign up. We're excited to have them as a partner.
Well, and I will share just really quick. This week, I have had some feedback from 3 different families who have been really thrilled with how quick they got paired and how easy it was and how like the barrier to entry to get their kid to participate was so much lower. And they've even said, that they approached it from, let's just give it a try. What can we, there's nothing to lose. Let's just kind of, well, it can't hurt type of a thing. And so, even if you're just contemplating it, it's worth it probably to go fill out the questionnaire and just kind of check it out, get a feel for it. You don't have to sign up on the spot. You can kind of poke around there and get a feel for it. But I've received 3 different really nice messages about how what a like weight off the shoulders kind of a feeling it's been to be like, okay.
You just literally described the opposite of what people say about meeting with me. Quick, easy to get a hold of, fast response, easy to get an appointment with.
You're the worst.
Gosh, man. I'm sorry. This is not about me. I apologize, teencounseling.com. I just realized my shortcomings in that moment. I'm like, that is so amazing. My clients would love that.
I know.
So if you're a client of mine, you want to give them a shot over me, I wouldn't blame you one bit. So, and also too, we got a big shout out to our community sponsor, which is 1-800-CONTACTS. Without them, we wouldn't be in business. We'd be sitting here, just sitting there talking about our feelings, but we wouldn't really have the support to actually do what we do. So thank you to 1-800-CONTACTS. They're great people there, and they got amazing contacts too. So go to them, get your eyes tested, and as Heidi and many of our listeners know now, they can do a lot more for your contact needs than you even know. But don't take my word for it. Go to 1-800-CONTACTS.com.
That's right.
Or download their app.
Go to the app.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to the pre-back to school stress and worry. So if you weren't worried about your kid going back to school, listen to our podcast and you will be.
I wonder to myself though, like who has more anxiety the back to school, the parents or the kids? Because it's
well, I'd say the parents because they have theirs, but you have theirs and yours.
I mean, as a mom, you're like, okay, I got to get the kids back to school because they're driving me nuts. And you're tired of cleaning up after them. You're tired of all the demands. You're tired of the going back and forth and the late nights and, all that stuff because it does wear you out. But then when you start thinking about like homework and
that's not a walk in the park either. That's not
you
fun.
Start thinking to yourself, I would be fine with, this mess. Anyway, so for me, I do start feeling some stomach aches. And for us, like, I've got a daughter who's going to college for the first time. So she's kind of experiencing some of those concerns. I've got a son who I'm hoping will stay in college. So I'm trying not to be concerned about that. And, my daughter who's in middle school, the only thing she cares about is who's in her classes. That's the only thing that matters. And for my 6th grader, I have to report 3rd week in a row. I know I'm reporting about Connor, but he's actually having he's responding so well. And it just kind of ties back to the fact that he was really, really part of that process. So we did do homework today. Yay, homework. And if I thought it was challenging to like try to get him to go to bed, like try him being the only one that has a commitment in the morning, it's a little frustrating.
Which is why we're going to talk about going back to school. So what are the biggest things right now that parents are going through in regards to the upcoming worries of the new school year?
Well, we want our kids to succeed.
Okay.
We want them to, number one, we want them to succeed academically. And there's a lot of variables, right, to academic success. You've got, number one, it's hard for me because I've got some kids that I do hold to an A, and I've got some kids that I say, let's just pass. It's just
C's do get degrees,
let's just
actually.
not fail. So we don't have to retake this class,
Yeah.
like whatever. So I think that academic success is stressful.
Yeah.
I will never forget, because it was the first time that I'd ever thought about it. But you said on this podcast, and it's probably been a year ago since you said it, that you said when anybody drops their kid off to school, particularly like imagine like a little kid walking into elementary, there's not very many moms who are thinking, man, I hope that she learns her spelling words, and I hope that she gets those times tables by the end of the year. No, you're thinking to yourself, I hope that they make friends, or I hope they don't hit a kid. Or, whatever.
Or I hope the teacher knows how to teach my child so that they'll be confident, so they're not coming home hating school. So it's definitely more the social interactions between the kid, the teacher, your child, and your friends. That's on the number one priority when you're dropping your kid off on the first day of school. Now, as the year goes on, you'll have plenty of time to worry about the grades. But that first day, it really is the experience, and you want them to have a good one.
And academic success and social success don't blend easily. I mean, it's two different things. They don't.
Yeah, you can be great at math and not great at talking to your peers. Right. Or you can be great at talking to your peers and not really good at math.
And you can be really actually good at math and have a teacher that you don't connect with and that you don't jive with, and then that can blow up your whole entire outlook on math.
Yep. What are some other things that might be worrisome to some parents starting out the new school year?
Something that happened, and okay, so you guys know me. You know that it is taking every ounce of my control to not go into that teacher, sit down, and give her Connor's 10-year history of all the problems that he's had and the things that he struggled with and the weaknesses that he has and the problems. And I just want to do all the setting it up.
You should send a text that's as long as your finger to your elbow.
It would be longer than that, probably, because
that's what she sent me before I met her.
Really feel like I want that teacher to know everything to set Connor up for success. And, I, like all the parents out there, know that my child has got some individual needs and an individual learning challenges, and I'm stressed about that. And I do want to share something really interesting happened, and I think this came home on Friday of last week, so the second day of school, and the teacher gave the kids a little personality test, a little personality / learning dynamic test.
Like one of the color tests?
Yes, it was a color test. And then when they took the test, the kids took the test, and then they figured out what color they were, and then she passed out the papers that said, I'm whatever color I am, and then it described them. And when Connor came home from school on Friday, and he pulls it out, and he wants me to read, like he wanted me to read what that said, and he goes, this totally describes me, Mom. And he was an orange. And I don't know, I just had this moment that I was like, okay, I've got a teacher who not only defined that to her and figured out, okay, this is the dynamics that I have in my class, but also empowered those kids to help them understand what type of experience is going to help them thrive. It was really, really cool.
That's a great idea that you did that.
And then I found the tests online.
Nice.
And I realized that that's something that all of us could do for all of our kids at any age. Could be a fun family activity, even to print out that little test and to do it. I wasn't planning on talking about that, but it was just such an empowering thing for Connor, and clarifying thing. And I thought to myself, okay, the teacher knows. The teacher knows this is what Connor's like. And I thought that was really cool.
How much do you think, and yeah, that is really cool. It just made me think about something else. How much do you think also, and I'm not saying that parents should be, that you think parents going back to school would be worried about their kids' safety?
Yeah, I think safety.
Maybe not for everybody, but for
I
some.
think that
Been a lot of bad things have happened in our country in recent years at schools.
Yeah.
Not to mention,
I agree.
That's an outside threat, but not to mention safety even within the school.
Bullying.
Is the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
And, we already addressed the connection between the teacher and the child. But if you're bullied, you can easily be pushed out. So not having a friend group, I think, is it's a very specific worry about the social challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Because some kids eat lunch alone. Some kids don't have other options, or they don't know how to connect with people. I know a lot of kids will just get lucky sometimes. Another kid will go, hey, you can eat with us, or they make a friend. But some kids don't get that lucky. So safety, isolation, being bullied. Anything else you can think of? What about the wrong friend groups? What about being influenced by kids who are using language or behaving in ways that your child would not learn that from you or any of your close friends or family members? What about that one? Do you think parents are worried about not necessarily them getting friends, but worried about being with the friends that, require a lot of things done in order to be part of the friend group? You got to do outlandish things. You got to, make inappropriate jokes. You got to be funny. But we're talking about different age groups, but I'm thinking definitely more of when you get later years of elementary and middle school and high school. Sometimes become part of a friend group if it's not necessarily a friend group that you want your kid to be a part of. Sometimes in order to be part of the friend group, the initiation is to kind of be unruly, to, break rules, test the limits. Things like that. Think parents are worried about stuff like that?
Kids having to change to fit in.
Yep.
Compromise.
So out of all those things right now, which of the things do you think are starting to be a concern for most parents that we're 3 weeks out?
Well, based on just like the messages that are coming to us.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
I hear a lot from, I think recently I hear a lot from parents that are divorced that are trying to navigate how to co-parent with someone that doesn't live with them. So that becomes a stressful situation, especially as school starts. Maybe there's new schools, maybe there's new situations. And I've heard quite a few on that one. The other thing that I feel like I've heard a lot recently is parents who are worried about an introverted kid. Because that introverted kid isn't really coming to them. And maybe they're sensing their concern, or even like
maybe that introverted
guessing their.
Yeah, maybe that introverted kid could be really comfortable just playing video games or being on their phone or being on technology. Because
a
lot of times
the parents are just worried because they don't like it.
Well, yeah, we all know it's not healthy. Even if your kid could invent like the next best video game, or it was going to be some great coder someday, or maybe they just naturally had that interest and ability. I don't think too many parents are looking at their kid isolating themselves and being overwhelmed or over consumption of video games and technology. I don't think most parents look at that and go, "Oh, that's great for them in the long run." I think that at this particular stage, it's important to find ways to be creative to get your kids not so emotionally codependent on devices. Lots of kids that I've been working with this summer have confessed to me in one way or the other that they feel as if their boredom and their not having options, not having people to hang out with, just causes them to turn towards video games and turn towards technology a lot more than they would actually want to, but it's safer. When you press the Xbox and you turn it on, or you click on your social media app, it doesn't say, "Hey, I don't want to hang out with you. I'm not going to text you." Just be prepared that no one wants to hang out with you. There's no rejection there. It's a safe place. You go play the video game, you pass the level, it says, "Congratulations, you win. You're amazing." So there's so much positive reward for accomplishing those tasks. And for some kids, the social tasks of going out and connecting with other people and being invited and taking advantage of those situations, sometimes it's littered with really bad social experiences from the year prior. So the number one, I was asking you to kind of see what you're getting, the number one concern that I get, but of course I'm getting parents come to me for counseling, is that they don't want they don't want this year to be a continual growth of last year's coping mechanisms of just staying busy with fun things like games and technological things, social media, as the way that they cope with not being asked to hang out or not having good friends. Instead,
how to actually create a fresh start?
How to create a fresh start, how to be able to have last year's high school experience or middle school experience as a painful reminder that you need to do things differently, versus looking at last year and saying, "I survived it because I just played lots of video games. I survived it because, I just, vegged out on YouTube for hours on end." Or, instead of trying to be okay with those coping mechanisms and just kind of be at peace with that's going to be your life, to not get comfortable in that uncomfortable comfort zone. And so that's the big thing that I've been hearing, is not want to repeat last year. They're seeing that their kids are getting too comfortable. And as I just said, I call it the uncomfortable comfort zone. It's like they get comfortable being bored and just scrolling through their life.
It's just easier.
It's just a lot easier because there's not risk in it. You're not going to get rejected if you're just scrolling. And they don't want that to be repeated. And privately, when I talk to the teenagers, they say the same thing. They don't usually like to say it in front of their parents sometimes, because it's painful to talk out loud. And sometimes parents have been saying that for a while, so it's almost valid.
They want the parent to be right.
They want the parent to be right. But I'm just so confident on this. I don't know any young person, even if they're more introverted, that doesn't want at least a couple good friends to enjoy the video games with. And I'm not talking about people live in other countries or other states that you do online gaming with, or the friends that you play games with but you never hang out with in real life. So I would like to talk about that one a little bit, give some parents some suggestions, how to be able to break the habit of using technology as your emotional caregiver and start the habit of using technology as the vehicle to connect with people.
Do you find that's mostly a boy thing?
I find video games is predominantly boys, and social media is more predominantly girls.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say predominant. I should say that girls tend to, and there's a lot of biological factors for this, girls tend to gravitate more towards the social media to know what people are doing, and boys do too. But boys have the video game thing that plays so much to the male ego, and plays so much to the you're special and you're important because you've mastered something. Hero's Journey. And with girls, sometimes being the hero is being liked. Sometimes being the hero is being the person who seems to have a lot of eyes on you. And I'm not saying that, all girls do that in inappropriate ways, but sometimes just some girls are really creative, and guys too, are really creative at getting people to look at what they're doing. And
some methods don't require a lot of creativity.
And some methods don't require a lot of creativity. They just require a little bit of skin, or a little bit of opening people's imaginations to not wearing a lot of clothes, I guess is probably the politically correct way to say that.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to define, because when we talk about gaming, and we go down, we talk about devices, we talk about technology, and we talk about that. I kind of always go to sort of that boy track. And maybe that's just because in my experience, my girls, their friends don't care about games. But when it comes to social media or some of those social media apps, they are all in. But I do have to say, so this week was just the Fortnite World Cup. Did you hear about this?
I heard about it, yes.
There's a 16-year-old kid that is now $3 million richer because of that game. And that may have fueled some Fortnite fire in my household. Whew. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that.
If someone can make $3 million doing it, well,
then
Mom, why
don't
can't I?
all they? Yep.
Why can't I?
Pretty smart of Fortnite. Those people are smart. Those Fortnite people.
Well, I think there's a couple different categories. There's a pretty introverted boys who are all about gaming and not really much about social media. They might dabble with it a little bit. And then there's the girls who are all about Snapchat, all about Instagram, and they don't really mess with video games unless it's like just playing around with a friend or something.
Right.
But then you have a lot of people where I think this is the place where it's not really even a gender thing. It's just this is kind of the biggest melting pot is any form of messaging. So texts, DMs,
yes.
group me. To be outside of those text threads, those messages, the Snapchat, like to be outside of the group is a dangerous place to be socially, because the people on the outside are the ones that are more likely to be picked off. If you're positioned in the center of a group, it seems to feel a lot safer for teenagers. And we're probably talking about a little bit more of the older kid, like preteen teenagers right now, because that's where more the group me and those things are going to start happening. When you start getting close to teenage years. But to be on the outside of those things can be pretty worrisome. I say this a lot to people, but the most important thing at school is not schoolwork. It's never been schoolwork. It is the reason why you're there. It is the intent. But the social, that's how you survive at school. This is not college where you pay extraordinary amounts of money and you go there for just the time that you're at class. Maybe you're at the library and then you're gone. It's not just a destination to learn and then leave. High school and junior high is a world.
And what I want to say about that is that when I was young, that never even occurred to me. To me, high school was a pathway to college, which was a pathway to success. And so and I think if you were to ask my parents or whatever, school was academics. That's why we went. That's what the focus needed to be. And so I think that this is a really important thing as parents right now to realize that social has always been a necessity to survive. But I think that it's important for us to look at the high school experience and the things that kids are worried about and having anxiety with and struggling with, to look at that through that lens.
Look at middle school parents and high school as the melting pot where environment, nature, DNA, life experiences, the world, your future, and all at the same time working out really primitive human behaviors. And you throw in hormones.
Sounds super fun.
You throw in hormones and the introduction of, well, let's just put it this way. The middle-aged kid, middle school age kid, and young high school kid, it wasn't too many years ago where they were having babies. They were starting families. Oh yeah, 14, 15 years old. Did you know your body wasn't technically made to have babies in late 30s and 40s? You can do it, but when is your body starting puberty? When is your body going through these changes? My point is all these things are coming together.
I'm just, in case you can't see me, in case you're not on YouTube, I'm just kind of blinking like, okay.
These are
you're
clashing
right.
at the same
It's
time.
true. Okay.
So tribalism gets introduced. Tribalism.
Got it.
That is what creates wars. It's what creates negotiations. It's what helps allies. Like this is adult type of world that they're just experiencing for the first time. My friend group against your friend group, boys against girls, this against that. Like you start seeing these games. These are social games that start to get played at this age. And some kids are clueless. They don't know they're in a game and they're losing. Other kids, a couple of those things seem to come natural. They catch a break. Maybe they have popularity because their parents famous for something, or they have lots of money, or they're extraordinarily attractive. Maybe they get like a lucky draw, and so maybe it's a little bit easier for them. But this is where it all comes to a head. This is mini life all in one area that has a roof. Well, in Utah, it has a roof over it. Schools, indoor schools, not where I'm from. But if you think about it, like this is like everybody coming. Imagine back in the old days where countries had just found out that, wow, these people over in the eastern countries, they got amazing, spices and stuff for medicines. And then these other part of countries go, oh, we have wheats and they just first came together and was like, wow, I have something, you have something. Let's see if we can exchange these things together. And it's like a little trade and network. I remember I was meeting with a social media guru a long time ago about my nonprofit with teens. And he said, you're actually creating something for the population of human beings that invented social media. Teenagers are the best networkers in the world. Before there was social media, there was gossip in high schools that would spread a rumor faster. By the time you finished your yawn, you're on, boom, everybody knew where the party was at, who was getting in a fight at 3:30, and it's like all eyes on. But now you introduce connection through digital and through social media. There's so much coming at every single kid. Some kids can really keep up with it. Their brain can handle it. But even the ones that can handle it, they're extraordinarily stressed. So in a nutshell, the stress that your teenager has to go through, that your child is going to go through from all those things happening in one specific place. See, in college, there's so much more, okay, let's develop my own individuality. Let me go to class on my own. Like in college, you don't have to go to class with a girlfriend or walk with a group of friends. Like you have different classes. Like
plus, nobody knew where you were.
You
were
people,
like in kindergarten.
Yeah, you meet people in the classes. You're not your social groups, and then we're all going to go to the same college. In fact, in high school, social groups get broken up because people go to different colleges. And they realize that my path is going to be different than someone else's. In high school, so many people feel stuck and trapped in this environment that is the crossroads of all the things in their life: a family, past, future hopes and dreams, athletics, music, culture, poetry, math, sciences. It's like the melting pot of all these things with little adults who are just semi-pros. They're not getting paid to do any of this, but yet they're supposed to take it serious and have the stress that if they are not accomplishing something major right now, they'll never be anything in the future. If you don't have kids out there that are involved in sports right now, then you don't know how much it costs, not for them to play, but for them to compete at a high level. The pressure to have training by professionals, you only got training by professionals if you were a college athlete to pros. Now, you could be 6 years old being trained by a top pro as long as you got the cake. And guess what? Families that don't have the cake, they figure it out because that could be their ticket to ride. For some families, they are secretly hoping and dreaming that their kid is going to be the next, professional athlete because that'd be a really easy 401k. Like they just made it rich, okay? But if you're not partnering up with your kid through this process and you're not helping get through that, I always tell parents, even if they did make it rich, they ain't going to share it with you. You got to be working together with your kid on this. So I'm just building this scenario of all these crossroads and all these things happening. I just want to introduce like a story for you guys to see. This is really the very first, imagine like a dock in Europe where all the boats are coming in. That's what's happening your first day of school. Everybody's showing up on different boats. You're showing up in different cars. Oh yeah, that's the rich family. They got a really nice car. Oh, that car looks like it may not make it out of the parking lot. Put, 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 put. And that kid's embarrassed that his parents dropping him off there. You see all these different people pulling into the port. But what you don't know is how these are all going to mesh and blend together. Huge part of it has to do with the school, which is what, we got to reach out to some of our school principals to see if we can get them to be on guests really soon here.
We got a couple who said they would already.
Okay, all right. So, so you get what I'm saying, though? I'm just trying to like get this all together because instead of saying, okay, what are your kids are worried about? I don't want this to be like when I'm on KSL for 5 minutes, like, here's 5 things, boom, 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 peace out, see you later. It's like, record that, rewind it, and follow that. No, I want to have a conversation about this. Do you agree with everything that I just said, or can you see what I'm trying to present?
Yes.
The visual.
And I think what's interesting is that, yes, and this is kind of the, not the argument, but the conversation that happens over and over again with parents that say, yeah, high school was tough when I was there. Middle school sucked. I had social problems and I fought with my parents and I was offered drugs my first day of 7th grade. You know, like some of this stuff has not changed. Some of the stuff is exactly what we went through when we were that age. Yes. But then there's a lot of things that are different. And I think that that's what, as you're building this picture and then, you know, like you throw a match on it or something, you know, like it's bigger. This fire, this conflict, the challenge is burning brighter and bigger and needs to be dealt with in a better way.
Well, a big reason why I'm explaining it this way is so that you can have an easier time talking with your kids. One of the biggest statistics that's been around for a while, maybe our producer can just Google a couple of stats on this really quickly because I can't think of them off the top of my head. But one of the biggest things is the increase in teenage stress.
Huge.
Yeah. So just Google that really quick, Brand. Like, you know, if you see this as one big melting pot where everything comes together, you're seeing trade happening. You're seeing network happening. You're seeing future lawyers and attorneys debating with parents and teachers and saying, well, I don't know, like, you know, I was absent, but the teacher didn't mark me here.
Secret agents.
You know, secret agents. Then you have little spies. Like, okay, they go from one friend group. Okay, this is what they're talking about. You what? Okay, go back and see what else. So you're seeing that everyone's trying to find out where they fit in, how they add value.
How about the little entrepreneurs?
Okay, little entrepreneurs. Okay. Okay, teens reported that their stress levels during the school year far exceeded what they believed to be healthy, 5.8 versus 3.9 on a 10-point scale. And topped adults average reported stress levels of 5.8, or adults average reported stress levels. It says 5.8 for teens versus 5.1 for adults. Even during the summer from August 3rd to August 31st, hey, we're almost on August 3rd, when interviewing took place, teens reported their stress during the prior month at levels higher than what they believe is healthy. 4.6 versus 3.9 on a 10-point scale. And that was just, it took them like 10 seconds to pull that one up.
So it's saying that what's deemed is normal, healthy stress, teens are way stressed out, higher than that, and they're stressed out more than adults.
And so to paint the picture of how I communicate this to parents, because a lot of times parents come to me, they don't understand how their kids can be so stressed. They have an iPhone, they have this. They only think of all the access to what the parent think is a luxury item. These are luxury goods. And the kid see it as like, no, this is just survival tools.
And you guys, this is when we start treading on tender ground for me. Because this is exactly where I was with my son, Corey, when he started to say to me, or when I'm learning that he's depressed and I'm saying to him things like, what do you possibly have to be sad about. And that was like, okay, I shouldn't have said it like that. That was shaming Heidi. I'm really good at that. But that was my genuine thought was, dude, you have it all.
Yeah, you're looking at what he has and you're saying that doesn't match up what he's saying.
And so I just didn't look at it from this perspective that the things that he has is like a bow and arrow in the quiver, to go out and get food.
Well, no, it is. Because if you think about it, you go to work hoping to make people happy, hoping to make your boss happy. You don't go to work wondering if you're going to get beat up. And I always use that example. Parents always look at me, well, not every day in high school you look that you're going to get beat up. I'm like, do you remember walking through the cafeteria and you have to avoid certain groups of people? Maybe your brain isn't saying you could get beat up, but your brain is saying walking by those people, specifically by yourself, could be running a risk of becoming the butt of their jokes. Because teenagers like to compare and they like to criticize other people. And the teenagers that are being more criticized at home or that are criticizing themselves because they're maybe depressed or struggle with self-esteem, they're going to be more likely to openly attack and criticize other people. Happy kids that are super stoked on life, they're trying to find more people to share the fire with. They're like, oh, come hang out with us. Like they're the gatherers of other people to their friend groups. But the ones who are really struggling, they're out there. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable being around them. And sometimes they're bullies. Sometimes they're future loan sharks and they're making. Like, hey, I'll loan you $5 for this, but you're gonna have to pay me 10%. Like, I've heard some crazy stories that kids are already starting to see that, oh, I could manipulate this way, I could influence this way, I could get friends this way. And so as this all comes together, it creates stress. And it's not just work stress, it's not just future stress, it's just not your family stress, it's all of it coming together at once. And for some people, they can manage it, but even if they can manage it, doesn't mean that it's not real stressful. It's intense. And I have a different vantage point because I'm hearing this in my counseling, in my nonprofit. So I easily on any given week, and I'm intimately talking back and forth. I'm not speaking to teenagers in the hundreds. I'm talking to them intimately in the 50 to 100 a week. So my exposure to that shows me that there are certain patterns and there's certain things that seem to be pretty collective. And that is, doesn't matter what the stress is, there's lots of it and they're trying to figure it out, but it's coming so fast that it's hard for them to it's like, okay, what is school stress versus what is academic school stress? What is I want to start on the football team versus I'm not popular in my friend group? They seem like they stand alone, but they're all intermixed and they're all intertwined.
I cannot wait for your solution about how we handle it.
Oh, there's no solution. I just want you guys to know that everybody's screwed.
Just everybody
we have a lot of problems.
Get super stressed. And
yeah. Job security for me, if I just create the fire. No, I mean, I obviously
because I'm I think I've got I started sweating a little bit.
Well, knowledge is power. And so when people come to me saying I can't relate to my kid's stress, I will tell stories like, okay, imagine what it was like for the first time when you get off of a boat. You hear rumors of this place where people trade, they work together, but there's different languages there. People come from different cultures. They have different expectations, and they're all coming together in one place to try to work it out. Not everybody's going to work with each other. Not everybody's going to partner up, and not everybody's going to have success. The market, and I'm talking about the business market now, it requires failure in order for success. And unfortunately, with young people, they already start to see some of these patterns as if I'm not successful, then I lose. And if I lose, someone else wins. And if someone else wins, that only validates that I'm not worthy or if I'm not good enough. And it could be in dating. It could be in academics. It could be in starting on an athletic team. There's lots of ways that you're going to be measured. Taking the measurement out of the equation, I haven't seen that ever help with the teenagers' independent living skills going on in life. So coddling them and, protecting them from these things, but being cavalier and just dismissing their stress and saying, oh, you're fine, or you'll make plenty of friends out of college. You won't hang out with your high school friends. You only have 3 more years of high school. You're fine. 3 years to a teenager isn't like, that's beyond eternity.
It's like
Like
lifetime.
that's a whole different, like 3 years they're looking, you're like, that doesn't even compute 3 years. 3 months is like 3 years to them. It's like 3 months is so far away. So having the discussion with people and parents, just like what we're doing right now with our listeners, introducing a different story, a different understanding, it's going to help you when you talk to your kids to not, sorry to use the example, but to not say things like that. Because what you said is exactly what you thought. But saying everything you think can go wrong sometimes.
So step number 1 is probably acknowledging that you see the magnitude of what's happening and acknowledging that and not being like, oh, it's just school.
So a lot of parents have used work because kids usually hear their parents talk about work. Your kids know work stresses you out, even if you like your job, even if you get paid ridiculously stupid amounts of money, there's going to be stress. You don't get paid lots of money without some sort of decision-making, problem-solving to happen. So what I tell parents to do is when your kids are talking about your stress, specifically when they're getting ready to go to school, one of the biggest blow-ups that happens is back to school shopping. That's when sometimes stress can come out through your teenager and can come out through you. But because you're trying to pick an outfit, it sounds like it's about the outfit. It sounds like it's about the clothing, but it's about a whole lot more. Or the cost of the clothing or how many of them they want. That wasn't part of the agreement. But it's a whole lot more than that. The stress of I have to be looking right and acting right and knowing where my new class is and making friends, all these things. I tell parents to use things like starting a new job or doing something at their job that you've never been done, that you've never had to do before. You're scared, you're nervous, you're going to be criticized. This one mom, she gave a great example. She said when she started this new job, it was the first time she ever got like a serious management position. So she wanted to be taken serious. And she was always taught that if a woman's going to be successful in the workplace, this is just what she said, then she's got to come in there, wear the power Lane Bryant suit on, and she wasn't going to take no mess from nobody. But her personality was like, she was a pushover in her personality. She was trying to be this person. And so she just simply told her daughter, said, man, I know it's stress. Like I was sitting there going, I'm going to be all this. I'm going to be all powerful. And as soon as I got there, I just started letting people do whatever they wanted. Everything started to fail at first. My boss was like, you can't just give everybody every raise that they asked for. I said, I know, but they liked it. So she told about how she failed, about how she made these mistakes. And then she turned and looked at her daughter. It's like, so yeah, I get why you'd be stressed because I was stressed and there was reason to be stressed. And it actually was really hard for me. The daughter just sat there and was like, okay, at least my mom in her own way, she didn't try to like jump in the daughter's like to relate to her stress. She said, I have my own stress that what you're saying reminds me of mine because the mom in the past used to say when the daughter would talk about her stress, she'd be like, well, it's just, this is high school, kids are immature. She'd try to rationalize the stress. Stress doesn't have a lot of room for rationalization sometimes.
So step number 2, after you've acknowledged how horrible the fire is to find a way to relate to them, not by trying to tell them what you think they're feeling, but try to sharing with them how a time or a way that you have felt that stress and anxiety. So and relating.
It's a great way for, if you're a parent out there that has a hard time knowing how much to be vulnerable, how much to share about things, it's a great time for you to practice this. Because what you get to do is you get to listen to your kid's stress. You get to sit there and think about it. And then to validate their stress instead of trying to steal their thunder, steal their shine.
Or make your stress seem so much harder than theirs.
Like, listen, so I was going to just tell you what you don't want to do to relate. A lot of parents think they're relating when they say this. You think you have it hard. How do you think about having 500 employees that if I don't go to work, if I don't do this, they're not going to get paid. They don't get their Christmases. And just the other day, I almost and the teenager's like, okay, note to self.
Do not bring this up.
This up again. So now I have to deal with the stress on my own. Some parents, they realize that they miss those opportunities when they hear me say this because that was not their intention.
Sure.
You suck at relating to your kid and being vulnerable to them as much as they suck at talking about their stress. Neither of you are good at that. I mean, you may be good at your work and they may be good at their friends telling their stress, but communicating it to a different generation, there's a lot of pitfalls that could happen. So you always want to make sure that when you do relate, you say, man, like I'm obviously not in high school. I don't know what that's like right now, because to tell them I've been a teenager before I know what it's like, even if it's that true and it's real, it doesn't help. So instead, all you have to tell them is like, I can't relate in those ways, but you know what this sounds a lot like? When I started my new job, I failed, they did this, but just take a moment. Don't get long-winded.
It's a quick
it's like,
relation.
And I remember when I was at that new job, I changed my outfit 30 times the night before. Walking out of the house, I changed my blouse. Like, you want to show your insecurities were worried. When I went to work, some things were cool. I wasn't sure if people liked me. Yeah, that was a rough day at work. Man, so I never realized that's probably what it's like for you. And then the teenager's like, yeah, that's a close version of it. Like, okay, they're getting it. And they'll continue to talk about their stress. Talking about stress to someone who actually understands the type of stress you're going through or can relate to it in some ways will minimize the stress. Talking about stress to someone who says things that creates more stress only causes you to hold in the stress, not talk about it. Then you get better at hiding it. Then you get better at expressing it.
So step number 3 really is just like, once you've acknowledged and you've related, then there's like, let's just talk about it. And in the talking about it, that's just going to kind of relieve the pressure, right?
Yeah.
Kind of just like we've talked about before, it shines the light on that shame. It shines the light on the fear and opens up that space for, okay, let's talk about it, which always diffuses the pressure.
Find me a teenager who doesn't want to be in the know about socially what's going on in their school, what's happening.
Every one of them.
Even the introverted ones, they may go, I don't care about those kids. I just want to play my video games. But they want to know why their friends said they couldn't play a video game, and then they saw them on Snapchat hanging out in another friend's house.
Right.
Even the ones that say they don't care, they care. Just some of them are so guarded, they don't want to show they care because they've been hurt. I talk to those kids. Those are the kids that when they're seventh grade, they invited a bunch of friends over for a party, like play pool and stuff like that. Nobody shows up, and it destroys them. That's like men I've talked to. It's like, yeah, first girl I've asked on a date totally rejected me. And so now they have this, like, I hate women, but I want to be with one, but I hate them. But I want to, and there's just this love-hate relationship with that struggle. So regardless of where your teenager is at and expressing themselves, showing that they have stress, telling you that they have stress minimizes the stress and helps them be in the know. Because how are you supposed to talk about something and explain something that you don't understand exactly what it is that you're dealing with? And so talking about the feelings, talking about the stress, you validating the stress, then you taking the opportunity to just a short moment to find a little connection bridge to relate, but then putting it back on them saying, but that's as close as I can come. I can only imagine for you, it's way worse because I've never walked through a hallway wondering if I'm going to run into the girl who I used to be best friends with, or run into the guy who, he and I said we're going to fight last year, and then we just both went away for summers. Like, does he still want to fight me? Does he still want to fight me? Like, these are primal things that are happening with these young brains, all this testosterone, all this hormones, all these things kind of coming together at the same time. So as parents, having that knowledge, knowing how to talk about it like this, your kids will actually believe that you understand.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's say that I've just done these things. I've acknowledged that this is tough. I've related, and we're going to have a conversation, and I'm about to like either dish out a platitude or ask a question, which we know question's bad. Statement's good. So how about if you share like a statement or two that might give us a hack into opening up that conversation and establishing that you're not going to pry in there, and that you're not putting them on the spot, and that you're not trying to make them defensive. What is a statement at this point that kind of opens up that conversation?
So I'm going to test you, Heidi.
And I'm going to write this down.
No. I'm going to quiz you because we have a parenting workshop coming up. If you guys haven't signed up, you should.
Okay.
And this isn't our parent workshop. I'm going to see if you've been paying attention.
I got this.
Okay. What do I always say? I say there's 3 things. What do I say is bad?
Well, questions.
No. There's 1 is bad, 1 is good, 1 is better. What do I say is bad?
Oh, well, crap.
I didn't think you were going to fail this, Heidi. Okay, we're going to have a meeting before we have this workshop going on. Even Brandon knows this one. It starts with an R.
Oh.
That's bad, and something else is good, and the third thing is even better.
Okay. I think I got this.
What are first responders not supposed to do?
We're not supposed to react.
Yeah, like, why'd you run that over that person in your car? You're like, why'd you hit that, that cat while you're driving? Like, nobody means to do these things on purpose.
We're not supposed to overreact. I call it freaking out. Yes, yes.
Reaction bad. What's good?
Response
is good. That means you have something already ahead of time that you've planned to say at that particular moment to minimize all the stress and emotions at that moment. But what is even better than responding?
Well, it's like initiating an action. Initiating.
Reaction bad. Responding good.
Man.
Initiation.
I was kind of sweating.
Initiation better.
This is why I can't go back to school, you guys.
See, here's the thing. She said this so many times. She knows. I just put her on the spot. So your question was a great opportunity for me to share how you can initiate as a parent. I want every single parent listening to this, no joke, Google statistics on teen stress. Then what I want you to do is you either share it with them through sending them the link if your kids have cell phones. Definitely, even if you send the link, I want you to go up to them and just say, whoa, you'll never guess what I just learned, what I just found out. And they'll go, what are you talking about? Always spark curiosity of your teenagers. If you want your teenagers to pay attention to you for a couple seconds and maybe give you a chance, you better spark their curiosity. So then you go, you don't have to say the podcast like I was listening to news, I was Googling something, and I saw the statistics on teen stress. I honestly thought like, you have a phone, you have
You guys have it easy.
You
What's
have it
your
easy.
problem?
You have it easy. But what the studies are showing and the way they explained it, oh my gosh, teenagers more stressed than adults. I feel ridiculous because like it makes sense, but like I didn't even know that. Like, what do you think? Do you think teens are as stressed as adults? So you started out with a statement to warm them up. Pay attention to their body language. And if you have an okay relationship, go and say it. Like,
you guys,
hey,
this
what do
is
you
such a
think
great
about
hack.
this?
Don't you love it when David gives us these hacks? This is a good one.
It's Jedi. And the reason why it's Jedi, it's because you're telling them something that every teenager already believes anyways.
And they've been waiting for you to like figure it out.
They've been trying to prove to you that their stress is real.
Right.
And you guys have been debating and who has it worse. Let them win. Let them win. Teenage suicide is drastically increasing. Teenage depression, anxiety is increasing. They are winning.
Yeah.
They're actually right. From the studies that we just read, and I'll have to look at some other ones, but the reason why I asked our producer to look it up, because all the ones that I get emailed to me say basically the same thing. From 2012, it starts going up. What happened in 2012? What got really popular in 2012? Exactly. Smartphones and social media apps. So from 2008 to 2012, adults and parents, they started to get into this realm.
Super
and then
fun.
As soon as the teenagers, people were smart. They go, we got to make apps just for teenagers, or teenage apps that are definitely going to feed and what their brain is craving. So that was successful. Now, I'm not saying it's just the phone. It's just the apps. There's a lot of things going on, just stress and pressure that we've talked about in general. But if you send them a link, or if you just tell them, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, this makes a lot of sense. Like a lot of parents, I tell them apologize. Say, if I ever made you feel like your stress isn't as bad as mine, I was wrong. I'm sorry.
100%. I bet you that every one of us parents that are listening do not believe that their kids are more stressed than them.
And if you tell your parents that, if you're a parent, you tell your kid that, 83.2% of the time, your kid is going to consider hanging out with you that night or eat your meal. I just made up the 80. 83.2% was an official non-scientific study conducted in my office.
And And
But
I
no,
just
joking aside, it increases your probability that they're not going to be in a hurry to run away from the conversation because you're validating them and you're actually not just saying it to try to get a relationship with them. It's true. You
Yeah.
just didn't think of it.
and this is something that they just need the credit
Well, once
for
you get
being
the
stressed
credit,
out.
once you get the credit and you finally got validated, what can you do next? What do you think they could do next? What would it be easier for them to do next?
Now they
actually,
can talk about it, right?
They can talk about it and they can start moving towards doing something about it. Why would you open up and share all the things that are stressing you to the person that when you share your stress only creates more stress?
Right. Bad idea.
So if you're sharing it to someone who relates to your stress, which is why your teens will go to other teens because they can relate to each other's stress. They're going through a lot of the same things. At least they're going to share the same opinions a lot of times. So why not you be a person that can relate to their stress?
So now we get into this point where the Heidi mom, the mom in me wants to let's say we're already to this point and I've acknowledged that there's stress and we've talked about it and now I'm going to fix it. Right? I'm going to start lecturing. I'm going to start like unloading all of my ideas. It's going to help their stress and it's going to just like make their life so much easier if they'll just, do all these things that I think will work great. Right? That's what I do next.
Well, usually when people do those first couple things, usually there's something in their instincts that tells them it's not necessary. The parents who have
I don't have that
the parents
instinct.
who have a strong agenda and they're just hardwired on the same pattern of like, I have to tell them the worries, I have to tell them the fears, I have to tell them the stresses. Well, now you're just making them more stressed. Like we already identified. So if you were to do the first couple things, as a parent, you will feel so much more calm and relaxed because the conversation's going well. Most parents don't actually do that. But if you're a parent who's stuck in some bad habits and you need to, let's say you're a teacher, let's say in your own career, you solve problems and you do it by warning people ahead of time.
I mean, I would probably start saying, well, how about if we just make sure that we go to bed every night on time?
Yeah.
And that we get up on time.
Because
and
brushing your teeth and going to bed on time is
good
going to make that
breakfast
better.
for you and you're going to feel so much better. Like that's like what
my wife would say, you need to drink more water.
Right.
Like her solution for everything is water. It's just a little inside joke because it has been for years. And oddly enough, she's usually right.
Water is helpful.
More water is helpful. So technically she's never wrong. She likes that. But in this particular situation, if you go back to telling the stories of your childhood, if you go back to long-winded examples and you try to change this and make this a teaching moment, you miss the moment. You now made it better and then made it worse because nothing is worse than someone connecting with you and you feel like there's hope and a chance only for them to revert back to their old ways and you realize, this isn't about this isn't about me.
Yeah.
This isn't about me. It's about them having get their agenda out front. They connected with me and warmed me up differently. I didn't see that one coming, mom or dad, but now they went back to their old ways. See, it wasn't a normal conversation. But I'm happy to tell you that most parents, once they have those couple things that we just suggested to do, most parents actually feel comfortable and relaxed and they like the way the conversation's going. And it doesn't seem to warrant the need to be long-winded. That's just people do that out of habit. And if you do that out of habit, don't say I screwed up. Now my kid's going to hate me. Just repeat back later on. Hey, earlier when we talked and I felt this really going really well until I over-talked it. So that last part of it, forget about it. I really do want to help you more with your stress. Sorry if I added more stress to you from that, but that was not my intention. By the way, parents, it's so easy to admit your fails and your mistakes if you're going to your kids. If they have to come to you and call you out, you're going to be defensive and it's not going to be as easy to say you're sorry or you apologize. That's why when you think it, just go say it. Just say it. So many times parents will come to me and tell me all the things that they thought that they didn't say. Then their teenager comes to me and tells me all the great things that they thought about their parents, but they didn't say. Then they got to come to counseling. We got to do an exercise to get them to talk about it. And then once they talk about it, things are way better, but someone's got to go first. So you guys are listening to the podcast, it's a parenting podcast. You go first.
Parents have to do it. Well, I definitely think that, this is an area that I have that I have gotten better.
Oh yeah, for
in.
sure.
And I have tried the thing like, describe to me what it's like. Tell me what it's like. Take me inside. Help me understand.
When you say teach me because I don't know or I'm lacking information, I had my head buried in work for the past couple months. I don't know what's going on. Teach me that. Oh man, your kid loves those moments. They'll sit up. They're like, well, okay, well here, they want to be above you with something that you don't know because it makes them feel like they have value. Makes them feel like they're offering something.
Yeah.
That all their life experience to going through school, they can come back and they can better their family. And that is the ultimate goal of adolescence, is to reshape the family. When you have a toddler and 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, it's pretty much cut, pace. Teach them this, teach them that, walking, ride a bike. It's not very complex, but the older they get and they start developing personality and you have to let them choose things that you think are ugly, that you don't want to buy, you don't want to pay for, you may think that trying to talk them out of it is a good way for you not to be uncomfortable, but what you're doing is you're not actually allowing them to develop their own personality. They make a choice, they don't like it, or they do like it, they get to figure out which one it is because it was their choice. Giving your kids opportunities to share with you and making choices how they're going to handle their own stress makes you a great support person. You just have to prove to them that you're not going to try to mitigate their stress in the way that you think they should. You're just going to support them and maybe throw in a couple ideas every now and then.
Which kind of takes us to the last kind of the final thing, which I think we've talked about a lot. Allowing your kid a minute to think about what might work for them rather than telling them what you think will work for them. And you just said it right. Like maybe offering up some suggestions is a great thing to do. Like, maybe we should try some yoga or,
or asking them would they even like suggestions.
Yeah.
If they say no, they okay, that's fine. But then now suggestions don't have this negative connotation where you're trying to push forward your agenda. Every time a teenager's told me that their parents asked permission to give them a suggestion and they turned it down, the kid could actually feel bad later on because, my mom was just trying to help. But if a parent says, well, you should just do that, it feels very intrusive. It's like, says who?
Right.
Like, what does drinking water and doing yoga have to do with me not being liked by that group that I want to be a part of? Like, what the? Because his parents are like, you don't understand. The yoga helps me with my stress. And they're like, Mom, what? Okay, I like yoga, but what does that have to do with me getting that girl to not hate me anymore? Like, what, are we going to go to yoga together? It's like, so it's play in their realm.
We really have to let them figure it out for
relate
themselves.
as much as you can with your own personal life, but don't stay in your own work life, your own personal stress. Just say it's probably like what I'm going through, but thanks for putting it in perspective. Use the statistics you didn't know. Make up a story. You watched it on the news. You saw this thing on Facebook and you clicked on it. Those are all believable stories because they're not necessarily a lie. You heard it through a digital thing called a podcast. Just be creative, and this is one way to be creative. Send them the information. Tell them that, wow, you had no idea, and then say, would you do me a favor? Even though you may not relate to any of these stresses, could you kind of share with me some of the stresses that your friends are going through? Because I'm just curious. Now, if they think you're asking for information and dirt on your friends to try to get you to not hang out with them, they'll sniff that out really quickly. So you have to be very sincere. Your credential, your number one credential with your teenagers when they get older ages is your sincerity. If you're not sincere about what you're trying to help them with and they feel like there's some sort of mom or dad fear and agenda going on, it's going to be really hard to have the conversations that really matter. But if they feel you're sincere and you're just trying to be a support person, that's going to go a long way. Because teenagers tell me they're not quite sure of why people are helping them. They're not quite sure why their own teenage friend likes them. Is it because they have lots of followers?
Ulterior motives.
Is it because they're trying to, meet your friend and you're just the vehicle to get to this guy that she likes? Everybody's questioning why, what are your motives? So your number one certification, your number one thing on your resume is your kids feeling that your intention to support them and relieve their stress is sincere.
I love that. And I think that at the end of this conversation and at all conversations, it's so awesome to leave the door open to your kid of, you know what? I just want you to know I'm here. If you want to chat, I'm here. If you don't want to chat, I'm here. Please feel like, I'm really working on my not freaking out. I really want to be an ally. We're in this together.
And remember, the one thing that we tell people a lot too is tell your kid the only way for me to get better at listening to you, the only way for me to get better at supporting and understanding you is I would need you to give me a chance. And I know I have blown it in the past. You don't have to say I know I've blown it, but you've blown it too. Like, you don't have to add that. Check your ego at the door. Check your ego at the door, because that's not necessary to say. But if you say, I know I've blown in the past. I know sometimes I get mama bear and I want to go beat up your friend or go protect you, but I need reps. I need practice. So if you are stressed about something, you come to me and you share it with me. I'd appreciate it. If I start to go tell you too quickly what to do, you can just tell me. Remember? Mom, Dad, remember what we said? It's like, okay.
Because they will remember.
But
they will remind
you. But if you give someone permission to put you in check, they'll do it more gently. And they won't think that, you're trying to be overbearing. They'll take it into consideration. And you get reps listening and determining what things are worthy of freaking out and what things you just need to bite your tongue on and just give them a little bit of time.
And you know what? It doesn't hurt to do this over some chips and salsa.
Well, if you're in Newport, Huntington Beach, and now their newest location in Oceanside, California, Sancho's Tacos. Heidi's and I's favorite tacos.
Oh, man.
Oceanside, they're one by my hometown. I'm all about it.
Food helps with the emotions, talking.
And my family, we're all of our kids. My kid was eating hot guacamole and hot salsa at 3 years old. I'm like, whose kid is this? I'm like, he's my kid. He eats the spiciest guacamole there is.
Oh, man. You guys, hopefully, this has given you some things to think about as you kind of walk into this next school year. Just helps to keep these things in conversation. Have a run through with a friend of yours, with your sister. Talk through this, and another fellow podcast listener. Talk about it. Work out some of the clunkiness.
Yeah, convince one of your friends to try this first before you try it. So why don't you be the experiment? You go first.
Learn from them. But that, David, I love that. I love that suggestion. And I think this is a great way. And I think even it doesn't have to be teenagers. I mean, I think that even
this works with adult kids. It works with younger kids. In fact, everything when we start about the teenage years, those are the years where it's so obvious that the stresses are happening. But the younger kids, even in your family that necessarily aren't teenagers, if you start telling them that, oh my gosh, I don't know what it's like to be your age and be stressed because I can't remember what it was like to be your age.
You are amazing me. Yeah.
It's like, well then I need you to help me out. Like, gosh, I need to figure this out. I'm interested to know what other young people are going through. That way, just it's better to know. And you give them a chance to be your instructor for a moment. Man, not only does it help you understand where they're at, but also gives them a chance to practice how to communicate their stress and feelings long before it gets turned up to the point where they're teenagers.
Yeah, which is so
long before they're stressed
beneficial.
And then they leave with car keys.
That's right.
Because that's always much scarier if they leave in car keys versus if they leave on a skateboard or walking.
It's true. Anyway, so I think we better wrap it up.
But now without telling people, gosh, we got like a couple spots left for our workshop.
Yes, we do.
We got 3 spots left for our workshop.
We do. We have a couple spots. We would love for you to come. Congratulations to our winner.
Oh, yeah. Go and announce your winner.
We did give it. Allie. Oh, geez. You guys, I can't remember this. I should have had this written down.
Pulling it up.
Sorry, Allie. Wherever you are, Allie, she did it to me already.
She's excited.
She didn't remember the reactor spawn, the initiate. That hurt me.
Oh, Stewart.
Allie Stewart. Allie Stewart, congratulations.
You guys, we gave away 2 spots and we heard from a lot of you and we asked you what was your favorite episode. And most of you said, don't stab the balls. And I face palmed every time.
See the don't freak out bracelets? we're deciding whether we're going to invest some company money into Don't Stab the Balls bracelets. Sounds like that the vote's in from the people. The people have spoken.
I just cannot stab the balls in front of the foreign exchange
Well,
students.
thank
That's
you
the main
for
thing.
thank you for everyone who took the time to write a message, say what your favorite episode was, and I can't pick those. We had to have one of our other associates pick that because Heidi and I, it's like we want to give it to everyone.
That actually came down to a full scale random situation because it was hard. We know that you guys are struggling. We know that you're stressed. We know how important your relationships are with your kids. And we love that you're listening. And every win that you guys report to us, we seriously do a happy dance. We're just thankful for this opportunity that we have to be able to just share the knowledge. Obviously, I'm not a pro and I'm still learning. And many of you are in the same boat with me. And, you know, when I kind of feel like I'm getting there with one kid, then the other kid is bottoming out, you know? And so I feel like it's this constant, okay, wait, what did we talk about? What did I learn? What am I supposed to know? What am I doing wrong? And so I feel you. And I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful to you, David, for sharing your information. And I would be grateful if you would get some footage of you surfing so that we could, you know, have some type of visual when you talk about your surfing of how much we should really be respecting your surfing.
Well, without showing you proof, I can tell you I don't surf. I'm a surfer. There's a difference between all you Instagrammers out there that take a trip for a week or so and you get on a surfboard. Like, yeah, hashtag surfing life, Southern California. When I go home, I make a couple phone calls and we get our boards and we go on some treks. Like as far away as my wife will let me go, search for the waves. I go through long, stressful experiences looking for surf.
I don't know if you guys,
I'll get some footage.
I don't know if you guys caught that. We kind of gave some background information about David as we kind of get these new followers coming in, and we got to relate to people.
I know.
So we got to share with people, you know, David's background, and you know, you guys see my scrapbooking. So
here's what I'll do. I'll get footage of me surfing. And then I'll get footage of choking someone out in jiu-jitsu. Would that make you happy?
Would love that.
Or at least setting them up like a nice little sweep armbar. No,
some credibility.
I'll do a ipponsei onagi, which is a judo throw, which would look impressive.
Okay,
it's one of those throws where you flip someone out, wham, and slam them on the ground.
I cannot wait.
So, but the problem is the footage may also show me getting hurt in the process. So I don't know.
And then he comes in here, a lot of whining. Anyway.
A lot of whining.
You
gotta get your sympathy somewhere.
We want to thank you for listening. We want to thank you for telling your friends about it. We want to thank you for believing us and taking a chance. We know that if you're actually here and you're actually trying these things, that there's been other things that didn't work for you.
That's right.
And we feel that too. So welcome to this journey. And we love you to be a part of it. And our goal is just to have less of us out there freaking out.
Yeah, we don't need more. We don't need parents in the backseat acting like kids. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Have we solved our kids' problems yet? You know, no freaking out.
We're in this together,
yeah.
And as we all get better, we're gonna see change. We're gonna make change, and that's what this is about. So again, big thanks to our friends at Light the Fight who have been with us from the beginning.
1-800-CONTACTS.
That's what I meant.
We do have friends Light the Fight, but there's only two of them.
Our friends at 1-800-CONTACTS.
And we talked to them today already, so.
We're super thankful for them. We're thankful for the initiative that they make in their community and in their community inside the culture at work, but also in our community I love how they're leading out. And we're also super thankful to teencounseling.com. And we're thankful for these resources in the world that we live in that can offer this as a solution and support us in the podcast to make it possible for us to be here. So as always, you guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And thanks for helping us to light the fight.